Well, hello. It's day 2 of working our ABCs. What else starts with an A? We did our animal the other day, and it was A for alligator. What do you think starts with an A? And it comes around this time every year, the fall. It grows on a tree, and you make yummy things with it. You guessed it, it's apples. So we're going to share this book today with you. It's the Apple Orchard Riddle from Margaret McNamara and G. Brian Carras. And we're going to give a shout out to the wonderful copyright publishing company that allows us to do this, and it is Swartz and Wade Books. All right. There are different kinds of apples. Okay. The kids in Mr. Tiffin's class were going on a field trip. Hurry up, Tara, said Robert. You'll miss the bus. Tara took a seat by herself next to the window. She liked to look outside and wonder about things. Tara's in dreamland again, said Anna. The lights are on, but nobody's home, said Eleanor. Tara didn't hear them. She was too busy daydreaming. When they got to the apple orchard, everybody hurried off the bus. Everybody except Tara. Tara walked off slowly. It takes me a little more time to do things, she said. Yes, I noticed, said Mr. Tiffin. There they are, Hill's Orchard. Come on in. The class gathered around the orchard's owner, Farmer Hills. Today, she said, we're going to take a tour of the orchard. We'll see how apples are picked and how cider is pressed. We'll watch apples get peeled by a special machine, and we'll pick some apples off the trees. Plus, I have a riddle for you to solve, said Mr. Tiffin. What's the riddle, said Charlie. Mr. Tiffin says, show me a little red house with no windows and no door, but with a star inside. That's it, said Jake. That's the riddle? That's the riddle, Mr. Tiffin said. Your job is to find the answer. How are we going to have time to figure this out while we have to learn about apples, said Molly. Are you sure this is fair? Yes, I'm sure, said Mr. Tiffin. I'm not very good at tests, said Tara. That's lucky because this is not a test, said Mr. Tiffin. Okay, so Mr. Tiffin gave the class a riddle. Let's see if you can figure out the riddle before the story ends. The class walked along the path lined with trees, stretching away as far as they could see. We grow 20 varieties of apples here. Farmer Hill says, you can name some of the apple varieties. Macintosh, said Alex. Granny Smith, said Jeremy. Crispin, Fuji, Gala, Red Delicious, Golden Delicious, and Macoun. Thank you, Eleanor, said Mr. Tiffin. Our varieties ripen at all different times, so we pick them from late summer to early fall, said Farmer Hills. These pointy ladders are what we use to pick the apples off the highest branches. I'm so tall, said Robert. I wouldn't need a ladder. Probably not, said Farmer Hills. Do you see how they're picking apples off the tree? These branches are low, so we all can reach, said Charlie. That's right, said Farmer Hills. Only pick apples off the trees, not off the ground, she added. To pick an apple, twist the stem till the fruit comes off the branch. She shows the class how to do it and gave them each a small bag for holding apples. They twisted and picked till their bags were full. Tara didn't pick any apples. Instead, she sat under a tree and looked at the sky. "What was that riddle again?" she asked. "Show me a little red house with no windows and no door, but with a star inside," said Eleanor, who was good at tests. There was an apple on the branch right above Tara's head. Tara twisted it off. "This is red." Farmer Hill showed the class where the apples were stored. "We keep the apples cold and fresh in the storage barn," she said. That way folks can enjoy them all year round." Jake noticed something about the building. "A red house," said Jake. "And look, no windows." "But it has 2 doors," said Anna. "And Farmer Hill just said that it had apples inside, not stars," said Eleanor. "So this is not the answer to the riddle," said Jake. "Correct," said Eleanor. Tara wasn't looking at the barn. She was looking at her apple. She saw the tiny worm burrow into it. "Hey, look, who lives here?" she said. "Yuck, don't eat that one," said Robert. "I won't." She laid the wormy half apple carefully on the ground. Mr. Tiffin tossed her an apple out of his bag, and she took a bite. So, the apple had a worm in it. Think about that. At the cider press, Farmer Hills puts on a raincoat and hat before she got close to the machine. "Making cider must be a messy business," said Mr. Tiffin. "And noisy, too," said Farmer Hills. The class watched as freshly washed apples travel up a chute to get chopped up into tiny pieces. "This is called pulp," said Farmer Hill. "Pulp?" Said Eleanor. "Nice word." Next, a farmhand used a hose to spray the pulp onto canvas sheets. "Cool," said Jeremy. Finally, the sheets of pulp were pressed down hard. Then it gets pumped into a big metal tank for one last treatment. "And then it's cider?" asked Charlie. "Then it's sterilized, and then it's cider." Have you ever been to a cider press? Have you ever drank apple cider? Oh, yum, yum, yum. It's that time of the year again. Robert spotted an old tractor as they walked across the farmyard. The tractor was red and rust. "Hey," he called, "this tractor doesn't have any windows or a door." Alex and Charlie ran over. "That's because it's a tractor, not a house," said Alex. "It could be a house for mice," said Charlie. "Mice sometimes live in tractor seats." Alex and Charlie and Robert poked around the seat. There was no mice. "Maybe there's a star inside," said Alex. Robert and Charlie looked all over that tractor. It had a steering wheel, a gas gauge, and a couple of pedals, but no star. "Can you see anything?" The apple peeler was the next stop. "We used the peeled apples for pies and cakes," said the Farmer Hills. She turned the machine on. It peeled each apple in a blink of an eye. "Whoa," said Jeremy. "That's fast. Do it again." Molly and Kimmy peered into the machine, but they didn't get too close. It's sort of red," said Kimmy, "even though it's also a little silver." "And there are definitely no windows," said Molly. "And door either," said Jeremy. "So we win." "Yeah, but where's the star?" said Kimmy. The 3 of them watched as the machine peeled the apples one after another. "No star here," said Kimmy. So that's not the answer to the riddle. What is? I don't know. At the end of the tour, Farmer Hills took the class to the farm stand. "Help yourself to a cup of apple cider and a cider donut. Just one each," said Mr. Tiffin. "But Tara's not eating hers," said Jake. Tara was still munching on the corner of her apple. "Aren't you done with that yet?" said Robert. "Not yet," said Tara. She chewed every bit of that apple till she got to the seeds. 5 seeds. Just then, Mr. Tiffin looked at his watch. Hey class, he called, the bus will be here soon. Let's talk about what we learned today. We learned that apples come in a lot of different varieties, said Molly. Crispin, Fuji, Gala, Red Delicious, Gold Delicious, and Macoun, said Eleanor. Cider press makes a lot of noise, said Jeremy. Donuts are yummy, said Jake. How about that riddle, Mr. Tiffin said. There doesn't seem to be an answer, said Eleanor. I told you it was not fair, said Molly. Tara walks over to Mr. Tiffin. She had 5 apple seeds in one hand and a round apple in another. She handed Mr. Tiffin the apple. This is a little red house for a worm. This is a little red house with no windows and no door. That's not a house, said Jake. It is if you're a worm, said Tara. Mr. Tiffin smiled at Tara. Go on, he said. I think there's a star inside this apple, said Tara, where nobody can see it. If nobody can see it, who cares, said Robert. I care. Let's take a look, said Mr. Tiffin. So the class gathered around Mr. Tiffin, took the apple out of Tara's hand. Where's the hidden star? He asked. You'll see if you cut the apple this way, right across the middle. Let's see if she's right. So Mr. Tiffin borrowed a small knife from the Farmer Hills. He cut the apple in half right across the middle. What do you see? Do you see a star? When he pulled the apple apart, the class could see a 5-pointed star. Hey, Tara was right, said Molly. Just then, the bus rumbled down the lane. Let's give a cheer for Farmer Hills, class, said Mr. Tiffin, and they did. The donuts were great, Jake shouted, and the class grabbed their jackets and bags and ran to go home. Come on, Tara, said Mr. Tiffin. When she got to the bus, Tara chose a seat by herself. She took a bite of an apple with a star inside. Then she looked out the window so she could daydream a little bit more. All right, guys, I hope you love our Apple book. A is for apple. Stay tuned. There's going to be a craft coming soon.